Hello and welcome to this Monday Roundtable West Yorkshire Football Show. I'm your host, Stephen Downs, and with me I have my trusty disciples as ever, Mr. Lewis Sale and Mr. Gaz Walker. Jay hopefully will be joining us later on, but Brownie is taking a well-deserved break, and so is Chris, having dutifully hosted the podcast for pretty much the majority of the season. So I'm your main host tonight. I've done well, lads, to be fair. I've not muted myself for the first 6 minutes, which is a no, there we are. It can only go up from here. How are we doing, Mr. Sale, on this bright and breezy Monday evening?
All the better for seeing your lovely face, Mr. Downs, and our very own promotion winner, Gaz, as well. What a beautiful Monday evening tonight is.
And Gaz, how are you feeling? Any sore head after the parade?
I'm all right, mate. Did I mention that we got promoted? No. Yeah, just a bit hot, mate. I don't cope well when it's really hot like this. I'm a big bugger, and I don't like it. So yeah, I'm a bit hot, but I'm all right. Not so bad. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. I'm a big lad too. Not quite as gigantic in terms of stature as you, Mr. Walker, but I don't do well in the hot weather. I get us back to December. That's why I say. Anyway, we will kick off tonight's show. We're going to look at all our West Yorkshire Football Show sides. We might touch on non-league if Lou's got anything from non-league. Obviously, that ended a couple of weeks ago. And then we're going to talk more generally about the playoffs. Obviously, it's that time of season again, which everybody sort of looks forward to, except if your team are in the playoffs. And normally that's a bit of a roller coaster ride. And then we'll look forward to the Champions League final and sort of the end of the season and maybe round off kind of a review generally about how football's gone this season. We might touch on one or two other subjects along the way. But we'll start with a quick roundup about our side. So firstly, we'll go to Bradford City. Obviously, they confirmed promotion the other week and had a fantastic parade on Tuesday. Guys, you were at the parade. How were things there? And obviously a carnival atmosphere in the heart of the city.
Yeah, it was good. I went over for the parade, partly because the missus and kids wanted to go, as they went over when it was the parade that we had in 2013. So we decided to go again. I obviously missed. I didn't go down North Parade after the game on the Saturday. All the players went down North Parade after the game. Were celebrating with the fans and getting drunk with the fans, and I were a bit disappointed that I missed that. So it was nice to go over for the parade. I think it just showed. We talked about it on the City Special show that we did with Jamie Rayner last week. I think it showed the potential that this club has. The turnout that was there, absolutely phenomenal, especially when you compare it to the parade or the equivalent thing that Doncaster did for winning the league. It dwarfed it, really. It just shows, like I said, what potential this club has. We talked about it on the pod. The thing that holds this club back is the fact that the ground and the training ground and the club are all owned by three different people. Stefan Rupp owns the club. Gordon Gibbs Family Pension Fund owns the stadium, and we rent the training facilities off a school. That is what's going to hold us back in the long run, because that parade and the celebrations and obviously the attendances at the club towards the end of the season show what potential there is at Bradford City if we can tap into it and fulfill it. We have more than enough potential to be up there at the top of League One, but it's going to take time because we have things holding us back. But yeah, just fantastic. In general, just fantastic to celebrate with the players. 26 years since automatic promotion, or last time we had automatic promotion, so we were well overdue it. And as you lads know, I really wanted it, and we got it. So yeah, really, really chuffed.
How does it feel compared to the other times when you've gone up through the playoff, Gaz? I mean, like I said, 26 years, and you're not. We're going to talk about the playoffs later on, but you didn't have to go through that heartache again, and you could just sort of, all right. I know it was a dramatic last day for you, but it kind of is great to relax at a parade like that, knowing that the players really did it in the end.
Yeah, you nailed it in the intro, Downsy. Like, the playoffs are fun for everybody apart from those that are involved in it. Those that are involved in it, it's too stressful. It's just, yeah, I'm just glad to avoid all that. To be honest, we've been in the playoffs a few times over the last few years. Obviously, we went up through the playoffs in 2013. We lost in the semis in 2016 in League One. We lost in the final in 2017 in League One. And we lost in the semi-final in League Two in 2023, I think it was, 2 years ago. So we have a lot of history in the playoffs recently. Our playoff record is mixed. It's not as good as Towns, who have a really good record in the playoffs, but it's better than Leeds, who have a poor record in the playoffs. So it can go either way with City in the playoffs. But yeah, just really glad to avoid it. And the fact that we've obviously only had our last automatic one was in 1999. It was just, something that I really, really wanted, and you couldn't have done it in more dramatic fashion. As you know, lads know, our form wasn't great towards the end of the season. You saw how I was getting. I felt we'd bottled it and chucked it away on a lot of occasions in a lot of ways. But we managed to scramble over the line in the most dramatic fashion, like you said, 96 minutes, pretty much take it to almost the last kick of the season to get automatic promotion. And if you could bottle that feeling, as we said on the pod the other night, if you could bottle that feeling and sell it, you'd be a millionaire.
Lou, from an outsider point of view, I know you've got with the connections to City, the city of Bradford, as in you support the other team, in the Bradford area. But it is great to see people like Gaz who have supported the club through thick and thin. And let's be honest, City fans have been through a lot of thin recently. To just have a day out like that and really rejoice in the good fortunes of the club.
That's what you want as a football fan, and we keep saying it, don't we? That you're waiting for those moments to happen, and on the whole, they probably don't happen as much as what you want them to do. Probably 6-7 times out of 10, you're likely to just have a average season, kind of go through the motions despite having a few ups and downs. But when you get a promotion, and especially the way Bradford City have done it, that's going to be, let's be honest, probably maybe once or twice in a lifetime that might happen. So you've absolutely got to celebrate, embrace it, and do everything you can to enjoy those moments. And obviously we know with Gaz and the gang that they've absolutely done that, and rightly so, because it's, like I say, they don't come around very, very often in moments. And like I say, you get promoted, which is a huge thing for any football fan, but to do it with, the 96 minutes on the clock, and it's everything that's you want to happen, but you also don't want to happen while you're still there, to go through that agony and pain just to see that happen. I think it's fantastic that, you get to celebrate those moments, and you can't blame the likes of Bradford City and the clubs that we've seen in recent weeks, do the open top bus parades, the parades around cities, and go on these, extravagant holidays that the supposedly owners may have paid for and people have helped chipped in. That's part of football, isn't it? You work hard. It's a fantastic profession to be in. They're very lucky people to do that. They've obviously been given that gift to play football, and we all know that they're paid relatively handsomely. But at the end of the day, you still got to do the job, and it's never easy to go and under that amount of pressure that these players do. They are human beings. I mean, crikey, we've seen what Alexander Arnold had to go through yesterday. And at the end of the day, they are human beings. So when you've got that pressure on you, like what Bradford City have, and especially like Leeds United, and obviously yourselves at Huddersfield, it's a big thing. So when you get at the right end of it, absolutely celebrate it.
Guys, it's also been an emotional week because of obviously the Bradford City fire, and remembering people, rightly so, through that horrific disaster that's happened, and it's kind of culminated in a very emotional week for the entire club and fan base, really. Yeah,
40 years this year, so a big anniversary of that. Very, very nice to get promotion. Very fitting to do it on the 40th anniversary, and in the manner that we did. But I struggle to talk about 1985 because I wasn't around. Well, I was 2 years old in 1985, so I wasn't at the game or following City around that sort of time. But we all know somebody that was involved in that tragedy in one way or another. You lads probably do, being more local to the area. I certainly do, having City fan, friends who are City fans. So we all know what a tragedy it was, and I would recommend anybody that's not seen it to go and watch the documentary that was on last night on the BBC Two called Unforgotten. That is well worth a watch if you want to educate yourselves on everything that surrounds the Bradford City fire. But as we do every year on the last home game of the season, we had the minute silence, and just wanted to show our respects to the family and friends of those that passed away or those that were affected, and obviously those that passed away themselves. So yeah, rest in peace to 56.
Yeah, 100%. Also, get in touch, guys, that are watching. Please do get your comments in. Ian, a regular watcher to the show. I'd like to thank Ian as well because he did tune into the Town Talk yesterday to specifically ask about Matty Pearson, which I may ask you about in a minute, guys. But obviously, Ian said he thinks that you had to go up this season. Any momentum was being sort of lost after 6 years in League Two, mate. So it's it probably. It was getting to the end of the cycle of any momentum being sort of lost, like Ian says, really, Gaz.
I think we had one more year at it. I think that David Sharp spoke when he came in about it possibly taking 2 years or 4 transfer windows to get the squad how he wanted it. I think given what he said there, we maybe had next season as well. I was always of the opinion that we would struggle to make the top 3 this season. I got more confident, obviously, as we had that run around January, February time, and we were doing really well, and we hit the top 3. But I was always thinking before that it'd be a playoff year. But once you've had a taste of that top 3 and you think you're in with a chance of it, you become absolutely desperate, as you lads know, to get over the line, and it sort of becomes all-consuming in a way. So I understand what Ian's saying there. It would have been a bitter pill to swallow if we'd have ended up in the playoffs. Remarkable what Walsall did yesterday, to be honest, after the fall off that they had. Obviously winning 1, they didn't win until the last game of the season. I think they were 13 games without a win before the last game of the season, and then they rocked up at Crewe and won. And fair play to them for going to Chesterfield and winning 2-0 yesterday, because that is a really, really tough thing to do when you've just missed out on automatics.
You made me panic there, guys. I thought I'd got the wrong badge on the graphic later on for the playoffs when you'd said Crew. Anyway, I've got it right then. So let's get on to a bit of the retained list. Obviously, City and Leeds haven't brought out the retained list yet. Huddersfield Town have, because we want to get rid of, nearly all the squad. But this, I asked Gaz earlier on who he thinks may or may not be staying at Bradford City. So I'll bring up the graphic here, and Gaz, you can talk us through it, mate. That's not why has that happened anyway.
Do you want me to go into it, Downsy? Yeah. So they are the list of players that are current that will be out of contract with Bradford City this summer. So as you can see, the bottom 5 are loans who will return to the parent clubs this summer whenever the contract with City ends. The others are contracted to Bradford City, but will be out of contract this summer. Apart from Lewis Richards, who I know when we signed him, it was publicised that we would have a 1-year option to extend his stay with us for another year. I do believe that City sometimes do that, or try to do that with a lot of players, put an option in the club's favour. So there might be others on that list that also have an option, but the one that was publicised when he signed was Lewis Richards. Out of the ones that are out of contract there, I only see Smallwood, Kelly and Sam Walker as definitely getting offered new deals. That is my personal opinion. Some City fans will disagree. I've had a little chat with a few people on Twitter or X today, and a lot of City fans are undecided on Kieran Kelly. A couple are undecided on Romney Critchlow. I think that Kieran Kelly will probably get a new deal just because I think he's a favourite of Graham Alexander's. And we also have a lot of churn in the centre-back position, with the fact that Huntington will leave, Johnson will leave, Shepherd will go back to Barnsley. I just feel that he might want to keep hold of Kelly as an option there at left-hand sided centre-back. Romney Critchlow also plays left-hand sided centre-back. I don't see us keeping both, and that's why I think Critchlow will go. I don't think he's overly impressed in his short-term deal that he signed in January to come from Peterborough. He was majorly impressive in his first spell with us a couple of years ago on loan from Town. Not struggled this time, but not been as impressive in this 6 months that he's been with us. I think he might go, but this is all just my personal opinion. Like I say, Downsy, the return list hasn't been released yet. I believe that they've only just come back from Ibiza, a holiday that the chairman Stefan Ruck paid for the squad. I think Graham Alexander said he was hoping to sit down with Ryan Sparks, Stephen Gent, and David Sharp today and then speak to the players tomorrow. So it could be Wednesday, Thursday before we actually hear who the retained list is, who we're hoping to keep or who we've offered new deals to. Everyone else on that list, I expect to leave. Could you just bring it back up again, pal?
Yeah.
I expect Sam Stubbs to go. He's been on loan at Cheltenham all season. Vagner Oliver will go. Thought to be highly paid at City, and it's just not worked out. He's been on loan at Shrewsbury since January. Callum Johnson, I'll come back to Jamie Walker in a minute. Callum Johnson has had his injury problems, and he's been in and out. I don't see him getting a new deal. Paul Huntington signed as cover, really, but a promotion. Not expert, but he has had promotion before with Carlisle, and I think his experience has helped us this season, but I think he'll go. I think he'll be released. Like I say, I spoke about Critchlow. I think he'll be released. I see Kelly and Smallwood getting new deals. Sam Walker, I think, will get a new deal. He's been our number one goalie all season. Whether he'll be number one goalie next year, I don't know. We also have Joe Hilton under contract, who's been back up this year. Whether we'll sign a third keeper and Sam Walker will be pushed to number two, I don't know. Or Sam Walker might keep the number one jersey for next year and beyond. Of the loans, I see Jay Benny's not featured towards the end of the season. Well, since January, really. I think he'll go back. Brandon Kaler would be a good one to get back on loan if we can. He's been impressive when he's played on loan from Birmingham. They might let us keep him with us having gone up and them having gone up as well. Terada Ramola, been impressive on loan from Crystal Palace. We have a good relationship with Crystal Palace, having had Scott Banks on loan before. And again, with us getting promoted, there might be a chance of getting him back on loan. Michael Mellon, possibly. I don't know. I don't know how City fans would feel about that. I'm not sure how the club will feel about that. He's played second fiddle to Callum Kavanagh largely since Andy Cook got injured. So whether he would come back or be wanted back, I'm not 100% sure. It was interesting to see him leading the chants at the parade and on North Parade after the game. He's obviously loving it at City. He's become big mates with Callum Kavanagh. So whether he'd want to come back, he might do. I don't know. That's one to possibly consider, but I would err on the side of I doubt it at the moment. Jack Shepherd would be one that we would love to get back. He's been fantastic this season. Had to be in the running for Player of the Year, I think, at one point. Got voted into the top 5 Players of the Year on the Whip for the Post vote for Player of the Year. If we can get him back from Barnsley on loan or even permanently, it'd be absolutely fantastic. But I believe that he signed a new contract before he came out on loan from Barnsley, so they might want to keep him or might want a big fee for him if they are to let him go. The sad one for me is Jamie Walker. One of my favourite City players over the last couple of years, been a bit of a shining light when things haven't been great, along with Andy Cook. I know he's well settled in the area, bit of a fan's favourite. Like I said, probably doesn't want to leave the area, to be honest. But his game time has been limited, particularly over the second half of the season. And I just have a feeling that his time might be up with City and he might get released this summer.
Yeah. Lou, any last thoughts on City before we move on?
I think when you look at that list, you've probably got around half of them that were in the first team last year. So there is going to be quite a substantial amount of change, I think. Even though Alexander will want to try and keep it to a minimum, I think, because he'll want to trust the people that have got him there, and that team spirit is really fostered, I think, especially in the past 12 months there at Valley Parade. There's some key players on that list. Smallwood, Player of the Year. Sam Walker, he's come in and done a magnificent job after Harry Lewis were rated so highly, gone to Carlisle, and Sam Walker's come in. Probably at the time wasn't massively favoured wherever he'd been, and now he's almost a bit the fans' favourite. We've seen, like I say, the impact of the loan signings, especially Adam Marola. Mellon's got a shout in there as well. I know that when we spoke on the show with Jamie, didn't we, about what does that loan option look like next year with teams going up? Gaz made a really good point about Keller at Birmingham. Obviously Mellon being in and around at Stockport as well, in that potentially in the same league as City. And there's going to be a lot of discussions had. What I do think is that I see City making some early moves. I think they've probably identified the targets within the past 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
And they'll want to do that business as quickly as possible. So when the lads do come back after a bit of a break and a bit of a celebration, that Alexander's probably got about 80-90% of that squad ready. Because I think it's vital to hit the ground running in League One. Echo my thoughts of what I've said about League One. I think it's going to be an incredibly tough division that next season. And for the likes of Bradford City coming up into some really established teams in that division, City have got to start well. and I think Alexander will want to get. Personally, I think he'll want to get probably 3 or 4 bodies in for the first game of that season, and then evaluate the market until the end of the window.
I think Ian's made a good comment, Downsy, in the chat. He's messaged about, particularly his point about Smith, Oduor and Wilson. We do have some players under contract, as most clubs probably do, that the club might advise to find other clubs or don't see in our plans. I would imagine that Tyler Smith, Clark Oduor and Adam Wilson are amongst those. Like I said, they are under contract for next season. Adam Wilson and Tyler Smith have been out on loan and don't really feature in Graham Alexander's plans. I don't think Clark Oduor also slipped down the pecking order. So those 3 could be 3 players who we do have under contract, but we might try and shift on if we can.
No, fair enough. Well, let's move on from Bradford City and talk about my club, Huddersfield Town. I'll hand it over to you guys for this bit of the show and any questions that you want to ask me, really.
Do you want to lead, Lou, or do you want me to lead?
You go for it first, mate. I think we all need to buckle in, don't we? Because I think Downsy might be like a bottle of pop here.
Well, my first question you answered before we went live, and obviously on the show, Downsy, you've done Town have done their return list, and I think you explained why, mainly in the fact that they're trying to get rid of some of these players as soon as they possibly can. Yeah. I think I know the answer to this first question, but was there anybody on that list that you think shouldn't have been released?
Well, I've got a nice little graphic here, as usual, which we've done with the Bradford one. But yeah, this is actually our return list. I've left a lot of the academy lads off that a lot of people wouldn't have known. Overall, there's 19 people being released by the club, which is quite a large section, really, of not just the first team but also the B team. No surprises. Johnny Ogg, obviously captain, legend, 12 years. Probably. I mean, he hasn't done his coaching badges, but if he had done, I could have seen him staying on. Did meet Kevin Nagel last week to have discussions, but I don't see Hogg staying. Danny Ward, injury prone. I think we'll just release him, to be honest. You never know, he might turn up in a National League club. I don't see him going on to play for any League Two clubs. Tom Lees is probably the only one that I may have offered a contract to, only very slightly, but he's, as I said on the Town Talk show yesterday, probably time for him to leave, being a good servant as Tom. Matty Pearson, obviously, he's sort of rumoured to be coming to you. I think he'd be an absolutely brilliant signing at Bradford City. And we kind of all agreed that on the Town Talk show yesterday. He'd just do the job brilliantly at City, head it, kick it, wherever you need it. Scores a few goals from corners. But just too slow and for a side that he's hoping, I know you lads are not as confident as what I could be in terms of Town potentially next season, but for any promotion going side, Matty Pearson's not really the one anymore. Ollie Turton, again, injury prone, needed to go. Josh Ruffles, good servant, same as the last 3 really. Never caused any fuss in the dressing room from what's been said, but needs to leave and probably will find a good home at a lower League One club / top League Two side. Again, another possible for City maybe to look at. Josh Karoma, I think he'll probably try and aim for a Championship club, but I can see him going to another rival League One team. Scored a few goals, been at the club now 6 seasons. Time to leave the football club. Scott High, as we know, has been on loan from Halifax. I'd be surprised if Fax don't go in for him to sign him permanently. Lloyd Canya, 19-year-old French lad who is the last of the trio that we had that was from the academy. There was high hopes that he was going to make it. Just not good enough in the end. Same for Connor Falls, who came on earlier this season in one of the Fisherman Friends Cup that we play in. He came on, and Chris Maxwell has obviously retired through his different various injuries. So no real surprises, and thankfully, there's a lot going. There's still a lot of work to do in the squad, mind, but there's a lot there going that I think most Town fans, well, 99% of Town fans agree on. Really,
is there anybody? Well, you're probably going to. I probably know the answer to this as well, Downsy. Are your players that you've got under contract that are going to be with you next season? Are there any that you wished weren't? That you wish we could have add on that list and released as well?
Yeah, Freddie Oladapo, not good enough. Reece Healy, made of glass. The injuries are just, we signed the lad for £2 million from Watford. Just an absolute waste of money. Probably a nice lad. Comes across as that. Tries hard when he did get on the pitch, but and I think without injuries, he would have been a very good striker at Town. I don't think he would have played at Town. I think he would have been at a Championship club, but the injuries have just crippled him. Thinking about this, there's a few guys, to be honest. They're the main two, but there are a few, mate, in the squad that I think it's either time to leave the football club or they're just not good enough. People like Kyle Udlin and people like that. There's a lot. It's an overinflated squad because of how the B team joined the first team, and over the last 2 seasons, you've seen nearly 40 players leave Huddersfield Town Football Club, which is a crazy amount, really.
I hope you're right on Matty Pearson. I think he'd be a good signing for us. I do believe he'll have a lot of interest from probably middle to lower end League One clubs, possibly a few that are aiming to get out of League Two. I think he will have a lot of interest, but I agree with you of what I know of him and what you've said about him. I think he could be a good signing if we can afford him, if the finances are right and if the interest there on both sides. I do believe he's from the Keighley area, and I believe he's got family that are City fans as well. So possibly there's something to be done there. I'm not in the know or anything, but it would be somebody who I'd be looking at if I was a power that be at City, somebody who had a say so at City. He'd be someone I'd be on the phone to.
The only reason you would miss out on him is the finances. If he wants a better deal somewhere else where he thinks he can get a better deal, but I don't. If I were Matty, I'd be going to City because I think he could be a bit of a cult hero at City in the later stage of his career, and a bit of a leader at the back for you guys. Like I say, he's done his stint at Town. He's just too slow for a centre-back that you would expect to be in a League One hopeful promotion chasing team.
Lou?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a decent signing for where you guys are at the moment in terms of City. I look at that list. I think Ruffles really springs out for me for City. I think he's versatile. He can play in a back three at centre-back on that left side if Critchlow doesn't stay. And also he can play at left-back as well, which we know spoke about before, haven't we? Obviously, Richards is there as a left wing back, and I'm not saying Ruffles can do that, but maybe with a bit of protection alongside a free, he could operate down that left side. I think he could be potentially quite a shrewd signing for somebody like yourselves at City. I think he offers a good amount of balance at the back. Is just obviously, I mean, Ian's kind of stole the thunder, so we'll show the comment. Any news on a manager for Town then, Downsy? Any rumours that you've heard? Have you had any of your spotters there at the John Smiths in around the revolving doors?
We had Ben, who is a regular watcher to the Town Talk show yesterday, camped outside Marsden's chicken shop on Leeds Road. And he said he said he had spotted Mr. Vagner, but I don't know how reliable Ben is. But listen, there's the massive rumour is Vagner. I think it is quite clear that the club has approached him. I'm getting a bit nervous that now we are 10 weeks without a manager, which is the longest the football club has gone without having a permanent manager in place in its entire history since 1908. So it is getting a bit worrying because the longer you leave it, the less chance you have of getting a squad together that is going to be good enough to go to the top end of the division. So they've got to get whoever they want in quick. There was a Scottish chap, I think his name was Stephen Robinson, that was up in Scotland I can't remember who he was managing.
But he's managed Motherwell, I think.
Yeah, Motherwell. Yeah, he apparently he's done all right. He's with a very limited budget, from what I understand. But that's not the type of manager we need. We need somebody who's either been there and done it, or a young, hungry coach. I mean, my top 5, as I've kept saying for the majority of the Town Talk shows over the last 5 weeks, and I think I've said on here, is Nigel Pearson, Tony Mowbray, Vagner as an obvious, Tom Cleverley, who's just been let go from Watford. I think he'd be a good shout. And I've forgotten the 5th. But
Rob Edwards.
Rob Edwards. Sorry, Rob Edwards.
Listen to your Town Talk shows, Downs. You see,
you do. Thank you very much. So they're the 5 that I would be going. They're the standouts.
There's also Downs in to throw. Obviously, we know about it as well, but who's replacing Cartwright potentially as well? Because you've got to get that person upstairs to get the right manager, and that they've got a bit of synergy between themselves to get you up and running.
Is that still the case that you're expecting a director of football first before a manager, or is it kind of fluid?
It's kind of fluid, really, because obviously I would say yes normally, but it depends what they've offered Vagner to come back. I mean, he's going to have thrown the kitchen sink at him and say, look, you can just sign whoever you want, or you've got buckets and buckets, loads of money. I don't know what he's offered him. Apparently, it's a very good, substantial package that he's offered him. It's just whether Vagner thinks it's the right time, and the problem is it's whipped the fan base up into a bit of an hysteria, and there are people saying, let the past be the past, and some are saying get him back, because that's what we need right now. I'd be happy to have David Vagner back. Of course I would. He's the best manager that I've seen in my lifetime at Town. But as the weeks go on, I'm more prepared to look at other managers that might want the job if Vagner doesn't think it's the right thing for him at this moment in time. I do think you're going to have to get to a crunch point where this week or next week and something's going to have to be done, because otherwise you're leaving it far too late to sign any decent sort of players, really.
It's twofold, isn't it, Downsy, really? Obviously, sorry, Lou, I know you want to come in as well, but it's twofold, isn't it, in the respect that it would give everybody a boost, given his history and his previous success with Town, and it feels like your fan base really do need a boost at the moment, especially, if you wanted to sell a few more season tickets, not just because he's a quality manager, but because of that boost he'd give the fan base. But the downside of it is they say never go back, don't they? And you don't want to, if he's not, you don't want to ruin his legacy or risk his legacy. So it is twofold, and it is what way you want to jump on that line.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, our great minds, guys, because I was thinking the same. I mean, my thoughts, and sometimes, people and managers and players going back, I kind of think just you've done your stint, leave it be. I mean, it's a completely different context of where you are now as a team and a club and all that kind of come together. But I think the simple question, and crikey, anybody can ask this, but Downs, I don't know what you think. Simple question is Vagner the right man for Huddersfield Town at this moment in time?
I think he's the right man to get the fan base together. He's definitely the right man for that. He would help the club sell more season tickets, 100%. Do I think we're setting him up to fail because we're getting him in so late? I mean, let's remember, we got Michael Duff in at this stage last year, and everybody thought, oh, Town's got somebody in early, to sort of like get the season up and rolling. So, it can't, do you look at it that way and go, well, it kind of worked for Duff, but then he wasn't backed by the end, and there were rumours that he'd sort of lost the dressing room. The one thing that I do know is the remainder of the squad that's left and any new lads that's going to come in, you aren't going to win the battle of getting rid of David Vagner, because the fans would never turn on him ever. And Kevin's got to get it right, because it's a massive, risky decision for him as well. Because if he, if he doesn't get it spot on, and say if we start really badly, there's only going to be one winner, and it's a no-lose situation for Vagner in terms of his admiration of the town fans, apart from the fact that it would tarnish slightly maybe his legacy a bit. So it's a difficult one. That's what I'm finding it emotionally difficult compared to the headspace of having somebody like Rob Edwards in there or Tom Cleverley, who I feel like I could really get behind, especially somebody like Tom Cleverley, who I think would be I think he's going to be a good coach at some stage. He's got some very good comments from Watford people who work around the club at Watford. So, we know that it's a bit of a basket case of a club for sacking managers. So I don't really. I take a lot of the time when a manager sat from Watford with a bit of a pinch of salt, compared to when managers sat sort of elsewhere, really. Although we are turning into a bit of a northern Watford, which annoys me.
Come and join us. Bradford have been like that for a few years.
Any last questions on town before we move on?
As long as you're all right, Downsy, that's all we're bothered about.
Yeah.
I'll be all right.
What I would say there is those 5 managers that you mentioned are all quite different. You've got Tony Mowbray and Nigel Pearson, who are at the older end of the scale, and then you've got Tom Cleverley and Rob Edwards at the younger end of the scale. It'd be interesting to see. It might come down to what setup they want. If they have offered Vagner something, then are they wanting to go down the director of football route? Is he going to work with a director of football, or if he isn't? Are they going to rip if he doesn't? And if he says he isn't going to work with a director of football and then he doesn't come, are they going to rip that up and go with a director of football because the manager that they want will work with a director of football? So it all seems a little bit up in the air at the moment. And as we've said before, massive moment for Kevin Nagle and his ownership of the club, as we've talked about a lot.
Huge.
Yeah. Okay. No, fair. That's fair comment. Yes. What you say. Right. Let's move it on. We don't think that. Jay, unfortunately, is not going to make it on. Just want to, because I've made the graphic and put time and effort into it, I will show that the Leeds graphic. This is what they're thinking as their retained list may be between Brownie and Jay. Obviously, Junior Firpo's out of contract, and so is Sam Byram. Joshua, I can't pronounce his name. And then Manor Solomon loan. Joe Rothwell loan. Obviously, I'm sure that they want to sign Solomon on a permanent, and then there's some youngsters there at the bottom. A quick word on that list, Lou, from your point of view, being the closet Leeds fan that you are. I'm joking.
I knew that would come in. They've got a massive job, haven't they? I know Jay and Brownie talk about on their shows, which I think we're going to try and do one this week as well. There's going to be a massive amount of change at Leeds. Jay and the guys have said it, that recruitment is the be all and end all. It absolutely is. The Leeds owners have pretty much come out and committed that they're going to spend a bit of money that they've got, which will, set a few alarm bells ringing across that kind of lower end of the Premier League, because obviously Leeds are in the market now and they do have a little bit of pulling power. But what I will say is they're going to find it tough. The current team is what they've got, I'll be honest, will get them relegated. And that's no disgrace of where they are at the moment because of walked away with that league. They've been exceptional, pretty much the top of the matrix across the division. But the Premier League is a whole different beast. They're going to be picking up players who some Premier League teams don't want. But I think looking at that list, they'll definitely want to sign Solomon. He's been extraordinary for him. Byram's on a very cheap contract, I heard and believe. So maybe he might be, and he's probably on a homegrown quota as well, which will help. But listen, I think it's going to be one of those situations where it'll be a constantly changing over the coming weeks. Leeds is going to be, putting headlines in the papers, both nationally and locally as well. We've linked with every other player possible. It's actually being clever enough to kind of read between the lines and see where the truth lies, because there's going to be a lot out there for Leeds. But they've got a job to do. I mean, got playoffs on at the moment. Looks like Sheffield United are going to be in a final there, 2-0 up at the moment against Bristol City, 5-0 up on aggregate. We saw Coventry, Sunderland. They've got the second leg to play. It was a tight game.
Don't jump ahead, Lou. Don't jump ahead. We're coming to the playoffs.
No problem. But yeah, I think from Leeds' perspective, they are going to be one of the favourites to go down. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Let's be absolutely honest. But what they do need is to get some really key players. And I think the lads mentioned it last week on their show, and we're absolutely spot on, is that they need to sign somebody with a little bit of magic in the boots to really see him through. We spoke about, haven't we, in numerous occasions, like, Cunha at Wolves has got that magic in his boots that's got him over the line. We're seeing Everton get over the line with the likes of Beto doing something, Decore doing something. West Ham have got the likes of Bowen and Kudus as well, who've just got that little bit of something that when it really matters, they can bring that X factor, and Leeds need that to survive next season. They do have the likes of Tanaka, but is he that kind of player? No. Nonto's got a lot to develop. Solomon's probably that player, but he's not permanent. Ramazani's still got a point to prove about himself. Dan James, we've seen him in the Premier League. With all the respect, having a wonderful season, he's not that kind of player that's going to absolutely light up the Premier League based on the names I've said before and take it, by the scruff of the neck. So it's going to be tight. It's going to be a tight one for Leeds, but their first few signings for me will be a real indicator of potentially what they're going to do next season.
Guys, out sound Leeds?
No, Lou's nailed it. Like say, he's the closet Leeds fan, so we'll go with what he says. I totally agree. They need some. It's interesting that they've said they're going to spend money and they're going to need to. I think we had a nice little debate in the chat the other week about who, if Leeds don't go down, who does go down instead. I think that was an interesting little debate to have, and it makes you look at other teams and see what they've got. And as Lou's talked about there with Wolves and West Ham, they've got those players who can keep them in the division. Leeds need that.
Yeah. It's all right. Forest will muck it up. Perfect relegation next season. Man U, Forest and Leeds to go down. Get a bet on it now. Right, let's move quickly on to the playoff campaign. And let's touch, obviously, Lou said, giving us a live score update there from Sheffield United's game. I think, did you say the 2-0 up, 5-0 on aggregate?
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, nearly made it 3, but they're going through to Wembley.
So Sheffield are through to Wembley. The other game was a 2-1 win for Sunderland. I don't know if anybody saw the highlights, but basically, Coventry basically gave Sunderland the victory. Gaz, don't know if you saw the highlights, but I expected, with the form that Sunderland have gone in, that Coventry were going to do a little bit better there.
Yeah, I saw the pass back because the lad that did the defender from Coventry who tried to pass it back to his keeper near the end, and the Sunderland lads running and scored. It's just not what you want in the playoffs in an intense situation. You feel for him. You feel for it if it happens in any game. But yeah, it looks like, especially with that having been the home game, it looks like it could cost them going to Sunderland for the second leg. I think Sunderland, Sheffield United could be a decent game, in the playoff final. Sheffield United, as you say, absolutely battering Bristol City. They had a debatable red card, didn't they? Or what was construed as a debatable red card. I know some people totally agreed with it, others didn't. I was a little bit 50-50 with it. Like, I don't know if you're going to come on to the Jatta one for Notts County. That was another one that was seen as could have gone either way. But again, moments that you don't want going against you in the playoffs. And it's probably cost Bristol City, given that they're now 5-0 down. So, yes, Sheffield United, Sunderland is my tip for the final. But don't necessarily rule out Coventry yet if they're not going to have another one of those moments that they had with the pass back in the first leg.
And who would you say out of those two then, Gaz? Sheffield and Sunderland?
Probably Sheffield, but I'm no championship expert about a greater knowledge on that. But just given the way that they finished the season, I know Sheffield United had that blip where they lost 3 or 4 games in a row. Sunderland haven't gone into it in great form either. So, but that 5-0 battering a Bristol City will do Sheffield United the world of good.
Lou, who's your tip for the final?
I think Coventry have got something in them. I really do. Just because I think Sunderland at home are probably going to have a lot more of the ball. I think they're more dangerous on the counter-attack. They've got some real firepower of Sunderland. They look really clinical up top. There's a couple of players in there who could move on if they don't potentially get into the Premier League. Sheffield United are going to go through, they're making a triple sub at the moment, resting key players with a final in 12 days' time. They're going to be well prepared for that one. It wouldn't surprise me if Coventry got there, but I think Sheffield United have got the right squad about them, and I think they've got the right man in charge in Weld. I know people have their opinions about him, but I think he's done exceptionally well again, considering the league has been in, obviously taking back over the team that he originally was in charge, and they were struggling with United, and you look at them now, and the third, in many other years they've gone up automatically. I see Sheffield United going up, but I mean, we talk about Leeds getting recruitment right. Sheffield United have got a lot to do if they're going to survive in the Premier League.
Any of the playoff teams have. Let's be absolutely honest. I mean, all of them squads are finishing 20th in the league and possibly getting even less points than Southampton, which would be amazing. But let's look. I'd like Frank to do it personally, on a personal level. I think it'd be nice if Frank did it. It'd be a nice story. But there we are. Let's move on to League One quickly. Leyton Orient 2, Stockport 2, and 0-0 in the other fixture. My tip for League One would be a Charlton and Leyton Orient final. I think Leyton Orient, having looked at them the other day, they're sort of the fairy tale team. I know Stockport have come up from League Two, don't get me wrong, as well. So either of them would be great to get to the final. But I just think there's something about Charlton at the moment, and under the watchful eye of Psycho that they've got as manager, he does, he does bring passion out of people. So Gaz, League One, any thoughts?
Yeah, did anybody see that offside decision in the Stockport?
Honestly, how bad was that? Wow.
Let's not get on to officials.
Yeah. That was my only comment, really, Downsy, on the League One game. I know that the Leyton Orient Stockport game was a damn sight better spectacle than the Charlton game, because I saw a few people watching the Charlton Wycombe game saying it was absolutely dire affair. Obviously, the first game wasn't, because it was 2-2, and there was that horrendous decision from the lino. But yeah, just baffling how he got that wrong.
Yeah, Lou, they can always be a bit tight, can't they? First leg fixtures, I feel.
Yeah, I fancy Stockport to get the job done at Edgeley Park. I think they'll beat Leyton Orient, especially if there's a little bit of something in there from that decision. I watched the game yesterday. It was a real battle. From a real tactical perspective, I actually quite enjoyed it, but I'm a bit sad when it comes to football, a bit of a geek. But I think Stockport will get the job done. I think they'll win it, which is a remarkable story for a club that have had to rebuild themselves, both on and off the pitch. I think they're looking really strong, and an absolute credit to one of the most underrated managers in the football pyramid, which is Challinor, who's been there. I remember him joining from Colwyn Bay to Stockport, and he would have filed as well, and in the National League North, and people were like, "What's he doing in charge of Stockport?" And he's taking him up from non-league potentially up to the Championship, and that's a sign of what the manager can do. With he's had resources, but he's had to rebuild teams. On a few occasions. So remarkable story. And I'm sorry to go on about officiating, but how VAR cannot be in the first legs, but then be in a final, I think is a disgrace. But very well. That's just my opinion.
I agree with that.
So you have it all, you don't have it at all.
Yeah, exactly. You're all in or not at all, are you? But that decision is arguably kept Leyton Orient in it, which is from their perspective fine. But from Stockport, I mean, that, like you said, guys, I'll be honest, we've seen some poor decisions, haven't we, across the season? I think that tops them all. I think that tops them all as one of the worst decisions I've seen in a long, long time.
Right.
And I don't like to say it because they are human beings and we make mistakes, but there's sometimes there got to be consequences. If a job's not done right, then they shouldn't be in charge for the next game, or got questions asked as to how that goal was allowed to be given, because that isn't a distance by a hair. That is a good potential 3-4 yards, which is understandable from Stockport to be so disgruntled. And Dave Chandler, I heard his interview after, how he was so measured in his response, again, speaks volumes of the person.
And he and obviously it's a decision that could cost a club at least £6 million, if not more, from being promoted from League One to the Championship. Gaz, did you say your tip? Sorry, out of the four sides, who would you tip?
Probably based on the fact that you're going for them, Downsy, and you know more about League One than me, I'll probably say Charlton. Yeah. But I think Stockport will have a say in it as well. To be honest, it could go. Any of those teams could go up. They really could, because Wycombe have been obviously in touch with the automatics throughout most of the season. Leighton Orient are in form. Stockport have got some great players. They've got Dave Challoner. They've got momentum in terms of coming through the league. And as you say, Charlton finished the season well as well, and they've got that manager in Nathan Jones that gets players up for things. So, honestly, I don't know.
Thanks for that, Gus. The side that I think is most desperate to go up because they won't be there next season is Wickham, to be fair, but there we are. League Two, Gaz, the one that you know most about, Notts County lost 1-0 to Wimbledon, and as you said earlier on in the podcast, Walsall beat Chesterfield 2-0. Probably a bit of a surprise what Walsall have done. I know you've just said about the Jatta red card. I mean, I don't know, what was your view on it? Did you think it was a red?
It's an interesting one, actually, because I was watching it on mute. I had it on mute on my phone because the family were watching something on telly. And when he lunged in, I thought he's in trouble here because you could just tell the way he lunged in. He was going to be in trouble. And it wasn't a surprise to me that he was given the red card. And then I turned the volume on to listen to what the commentators were saying, and they were saying it was harsh. Now, they were saying it was harsh because he was pulled back beforehand, which he was. The foul should have been given to him before he made that lunging tackle. And also they were saying he didn't make contact with the player. Now, I've seen a lot of mixed opinions on this. The referee will just say that it was a dangerous tackle. And as soon as you say it's a dangerous tackle, you're going with both feet, you're in trouble of getting sent off. In this day and age, it doesn't always... Well, it doesn't. It doesn't matter by letter of the law whether he made contact with the player or not. The fact that he had both feet off the floor and he went in a reckless manner means that the referee's perfectly within his rights to show a red card. And I understand why he was sent off. But conversely, I can see the other side of people saying it was harsh. Like I say, when I watched it on mute, first time looking at it, I knew he was in trouble.
Lou?
I think it's a red card. I do. I think once you go off the floor in the air with 2 feet like that, you're running the risk of getting a red card. Players, are intelligent enough now to know that would be the case. And, we've seen on occasions people even get, touch on the ball, but it doesn't matter if that. I'm not saying he's gone out to hurt him, because I wouldn't say any player does that really. But you run that risk, don't you? And he could have got the ball for me, and it's still a red card. I know people will probably say otherwise in the comments and around the footballing circles, but you can't go into a tackle like that and expect to come away. And, that's a massive blow for Notts County. Massive blow to lose the number one striker in his second leg, and then potentially for the final. That it's those moments that can really make a big difference at the end of the season. It's
a lunge out of frustration, isn't it? Because of the way the game was going, they were losing 1-0. Time was running out. He was getting pulled back, and he's just And you can totally sympathise with him for why he's done it. But I 100% agree with Lou. It's probably a red card, and he probably, especially if they don't win or they don't he'll be suspended now, won't he, for the second leg and probably for the final as well. He could have played his last game for Notts County because I see him selling him they nearly sold him in January. I know Plymouth were in for him in January. I see teams coming in for him again in the summer.
Yeah. Let's just wrap up quickly. Any news from just pick a team, Lynn, from League Two.
Walsall.
Gaz.
Yeah, they surprised me, Walsall, with that performance yesterday. I thought they'd have no chance, but after the way they played yesterday, and having watched both bits of both semi-finals, I think they've got a chance. Wimbledon are very good defensively, and they proved that in the semi-final. They've got a really, really good keeper on loan from Crystal Palace. So they will be a threat because they're so tight defensively, but I'm going to go with Walsall as well.
Yeah. I've only got 3 topics left. So firstly, any quick news from the non-league, Lou?
Probably just locally. Halifax Town are in playoff action Wednesday night against Oldham away, which is a massive, massive tie for the Sherman. Obviously, we've heard from Dave in recent weeks about being able to play at the Share. Hopefully, they get the job done against Oldham. Then they'll face York away in the semi-final ahead of potentially a playoff final, which could potentially be the likes of Forest Green and the like. But hopefully, the Sherman really get going. So that'll be one that we can definitely review next week. And at the moment, there's teams that are coming out in non-league, especially with the retained and released list. It's going to be a very busy period. I know that, now the playoffs have been fully confirmed. The teams have been confirmed of going up, going down. I know that there's teams and players that are probably having a week or two break before really getting stuck into it. So it's probably a little bit of a quiet period in terms of incomings and outgoings. It's something we'll definitely pick up in the next few weeks. But we'll look back on Halifax and hopefully celebrate them getting through to the semi-final against York.
Yeah, hopefully so. There was a big match, or big couple of matches in the Champions League this week. Obviously, it's Inter Milan v PSG in the stellar final that crowns off the season, really. Gaz, PSG, the team for me, I think they've been absolutely wonderful in Europe this season and just absolutely rock and rolled everybody. I had a bit of an iffy start in the new system, but once they've got going, they've really absolutely torn everybody to bits, really.
Absolutely. I mean, we could do a whole show on the Champions League. We really could, with a discussion about how it's the new format and everything, and how Paris Saint-Germain nearly went out in that group stage. But I obviously, my Liverpool leanings, and they were absolutely fantastic against Liverpool. Liverpool did well to take them to penalties, really. Got closer than Aston Villa and Arsenal both did in the following rounds. They're my tip to win it. They steamroll teams, especially at home. They play that high press, and they play it really, really well. Probably better than a lot of teams try and play it. And I've seen Klopp's teams play for Liverpool, and PSG play it really, really well. High energy. They've made a mockery of the accusation. Well, they haven't, because people have said it's a farmers' league for a long time in France, and obviously they win it every year. But now they look like they're ready to go on and win the Champions League, and fair play to them. They deserve it from what I've seen. Yeah. Like I said, Liverpool did well to take them at pens. They've put Villa out, they've put Arsenal out, which I'm glad about because I can't stand Arteta and I can't stand the Arsenal fan base at the moment. So yeah, I want them to win it, and I think they will win it. I'm just ashamed that I didn't see the Barcelona Inter Milan game, to be honest. I didn't see any of that, and it sounded like an absolute belter.
Lou, obviously I've seen the highlights of a lot of the Inter Milan games this season, because I do catch all the Champions League highlights, and fair play to Inter. I mean, they never stopped, did they? Even when they were looking like they were going to go out at one stage against Barca for about 5-10 minutes, they absolutely, came back fighting with all Italian grit and the rest of it.
Absolutely. I don't want to say, because I would mention it a few people before, I wish I'd have said it between us in our group, but they were my dark horses to do well. That actually, I fancy him to win it. I think they've just got a real tenacity, a real proper spirit about themselves. Yeah, they've got players on paper that, you're looking at Premier League thinking, I'm not too sure about them, the likes of Mkhitaryan, but the likes of Dumfries, Barella, Martinez, Stoney, I think they're outstanding. I watched the games against Barcelona, and I don't want to kind of say it because Kaz unfortunately didn't see it, but some of the best Champions League games I've seen in a long time. I thought both legs were exceptional. Barcelona have been a standout team. We've seen what they've done to Real Madrid yesterday in El Clasico. Yamal in there as well. It was just unbelievable. We've seen what Rafinha's done as well from an ex-Leeds United perspective. I fancy him to do the job. I really do. I think they'll really frustrate PSG. I think they'll surprise a lot of people, and I think we could win that.
Neither team wanted to defend in that game. It was just
which made it brilliant
in both legs. Yeah.
Which is interesting as well, given Inzaghi, because Inzaghi is a very tactical coach and has frustrated a lot of teams in recent years in the Champions League. So to see him adapt and go and attack Barcelona like that was quite interesting.
Think they'll attack PSG like that, Gaz?
No, I think Lou's right. I think they'll try and frustrate.
Yeah. Last topic. Obviously, we've got to kind of quickly mention it just because with Gaz's other allegiance. Trent, obviously, Alexander-Arnold released that he's leaving the club to go to Real Madrid. Got booed yesterday. Obviously, it's been a massive topic all over social media and British media in a whole. Gaz, from a Liverpool fan perspective, just quickly on it. I know we could talk about it for a long time, but just if you could sum up in a minute or so what you thought to the reaction. I think we all knew it kind of probably may have happened, but I was surprised at the extent of the loudness of the boos.
Yeah, I didn't really. I kind of got drawn into talking about it in the group chat yesterday. It's got a lot of angles to it. A lot of opinions on both sides. I can see both sides as I normally can. I'm a bit of a fence sitter when it comes to this. I try and see both sides of most arguments. There's people saying that obviously he's perfectly entitled to do it, and he is. If he's got a dream to play in Spain, to live a new life, to learn a new culture and a new language, then and he wants to play for Real Madrid, as a lot of players do, then fair enough, and he's perfectly entitled to do it. What Liverpool fans will say is that, or those that are booing him will say, is that he's spoken previously about how he sees his whole career being at Liverpool. He never wants to play for anybody else. His dreams to captain the club. And in that respect, it hurts. He's also run his contract down and gone on a free transfer, which is another kick in the balls for a lot of people, in the respect that he could have been sold and got a fee for. It feels also more of a kick in the balls than a Manaman or an Owen did, because Liverpool are at the top now. Where else would you've heard Virgil van Dijk say, where else would you rather be? Liverpool are challenging for honours on all fronts. It's not like when McManaman and Owen left and they had to go to win trophies. They don't need to go anywhere else to win trophies at the moment. So I can understand it. What I will say is a lot of people have been retweeting what Peter Crouch has said about it on Rio Ferdinand's podcast. I don't know if you lads have seen it, and he's kind of explained it from a Liverpudlian's point of view, which I hadn't even thought about, even though I've got my Liverpool allegiances. But yeah, I see both sides. I think the real kick in the balls for me is him running his contract down and going on a free, which people are suggesting his brother's had his input into. One of his brothers is his agent, and he hasn't got a great reputation around Liverpool, from what I can gather. A bit of a, shall we say, big head, thinks he's the big I am since he's been his brother's agent. So I think he's had an input. His mother obviously wanted him to stay at Liverpool. His mother's a Liverpool fan. But yeah, see both sides. But I think the real one that swings it, that's pushed a lot of Liverpool fans over the edge, is that fact that he's run his contract down and gone on a free, and the fact that his brother's had a big input into that, I think.
Lou, obviously, it's not, the timing that he said he was going to leave, and the fact that then Real Madrid have asked to have him 12 days earlier, I really don't think has helped either the situation. Obviously, they're trying to pressure Xavi Alonso at the moment to go in as manager for the start of that competition as well, and trying to pressure Leverkusen to let him go. Obviously, with Ancelotti being announced to go to Brazil today. What were your thoughts about the whole reaction before we wrap up?
I don't think we're probably going to know the full story. This kind of stuff doesn't always come out 100%, which is understandable. Some things have got kept behind closed doors. I can't blame him. I can't blame Alexander for leaving in terms of he's won everything he's wanted to do at Liverpool. And the Liverpool fans have enjoyed, in my opinion, probably he's going to make arguably probably his best moments of his career. But then at the same time, is he going to be offered the same package potentially at Liverpool as he would have been at Real Madrid? I don't know, but it's hard. It's probably hard for him to turn it down. He's probably wanted an opportunity like this, or any world class player would really struggle to turn down an opportunity to move to Real Madrid. I thought the noises were louder than I imagined they were going to be. I think it probably took Slot by surprise as well. I think I could be wrong on this. I think if he expected the boost to be as loud as they were, I'd have been surprised if he'd have brought him on. I think that's one thing that's going to be interesting come the final day of the season, when the trophy's presented. We've all got to walk out individually and the names get announced and holding that trophy. What does that look like? I think Slot's got a real conundrum there to manage. One, his playing time for the rest of his season, how he feels, because he looked pretty broken, if I'm being honest, when the TV cameras went to him. Which you do understand, because like I say, he's a human being at the end of the day. But I think Slot's got a bit of a job to do just to see that out until the end of the season. You'd hope that the crowd would see the bigger picture in terms of a team winning the league and cheering Alexander-Arnold and kind of just putting that to the side for one last occasion. But I can't blame him. And I would argue that if Real Madrid were potentially looking to sign him before the window closes for the World Club Championship, I think if Liverpool got probably 10 to 20 million, I think they'd take it. I think they absolutely would, because that goes in the PSR bank straight away as well.
Yeah. Gaz, last
you've nailed it a little bit there, Lou. I just wanted to say that the point you made about Slot is a really good one. I spoke to a Liverpool fan, a friend of mine yesterday, a big Liverpool fan, who said that Slot's probably regretting bringing him on as a sub yesterday now. There was a massive, I'm told from people that were at the game, it caused arguments in the stands when people started booing, because you've got people around turning around saying don't boo him. It's a massive split. It's split people a lot. It'll be interesting, as you say, to see how, if he plays again for the club. There's only 2 games left this season. They've got Brighton away at the weekend, and then they've got Palace at home on the last day. Are we going to see him? Is Slot going to put him into that environment again? Does he want to be in that environment when they do the parade at the end of the season and there's 100,000 pissed up Scousers on the streets of Liverpool and he's on a bus going through it? How's that going to work? I honestly don't know. The other point that I should have made at the start as well is that Trent said all season that he didn't want this to be played out in public. Well, Real Madrid are known for playing things out in public. That was never, ever going to happen. Yeah. We know how the Real Madrid PR machine works. So in a way, he probably shouldn't have come out and said that if he's always had the plan to go to Madrid, because that was never going to happen if he were going to Madrid. We know how Madrid PR works.
100%.
It's been played out in the press, hasn't it, all season because of that?
Yeah. 100. You're absolutely spot on there. Personally, I wouldn't play him. I think it's a headache that Slot doesn't need. So you shouldn't be allowed at the ground, and allowed to lift for trophy. My God, he's been part of the team. But I won't bring him on. I think it's just you're creating a rob for your own back there, myself. Right, well, thank you very much, guys, for joining us. We've gone over an hour slightly, but we haven't done our usual 2-hour rant, so we've kept it to about 1 hour 10 minutes. So thank you very much, as ever, for all the comments, even the ones that are thanks for all your comments. Let's hope for more discussion next week. Good luck to Halifax in the playoffs. Let's all wish them and Mr. Sherman Stats, Dave Foy, good luck this week. We'll be back, I'm sure, in the next week or so with more specials from Leeds United. If there's anything that happens at Huddersfield Town, and of course Bradford City, will be looking to cover them too. Or if Lou sees any spectacular news in non-league of any sort, I'm sure he'll update us all. But for now, I've been your host, Stephen Downs. Thanks, guys, for joining us on this Monday night. Lou, Gaz, enjoy.
Cheers, Downsy. Cheers, guys.
Night, everybody.
All right, here we go. Good night. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.